Hi there, I'm Lisa Fitzpatrick.
Hi, beautiful.
Hi, how you going, Devashi? So I'm Lisa Fitzpatrick, and I'm so looking forward to this interview. This is a powerful spiritual and feminine leadership. Create the life and business that you love by being yourself and doing what you love. And Devashi is, I'm so honoured to have you today for the interview, Devashi. Thank you so much for coming.
Oh, it's so my pleasure. It's so my pleasure to work with you.
Devashi's a specialist in sacred sexual feminine medicine for women. Her services are centered around female somatic psychology and mystical feminine embodiment practices. How juicy is that? Devashi is the modern founder of Feminine Yoga for Women's Body, with an extensive background in women's mystery, spiritual sexuality, and body work. And she offers 2 certification programs for women who are ready for comprehensive professional training. And having known you for a little while, Devashi, I can just attest to the caliber and the professionalism that your trainings offer. And these certifications are actually in feminine yoga or somatic psychotherapy and coaching for women. Devashi offers a membership with an international community and other personal immersions, which sound so mind-blowingly transformational for deepening into sacred feminine alignment and embodiment. So once again, I'm just so honoured to have you to be able to discuss this important topic of what it means to really own up our spiritual power as women, and what it also means to lead with our feminine as well, because I just know you have so much to offer this discussion, Devashi. So awesome. Now, the theme of today's interview is attunement to self while being of service to others. And something that you say on you did say on your website, which I thought was so powerful, is that the world will forever pull on your magic if you allow it, while you chase the next big thing or person to hopefully give you what you're looking for. But most women know far more about everyone else and everything else than they do about how their own body works and how to utilize that for their optimal pleasure, happiness, and fulfillment. So can you speak to us about attunement to self while being of service to others and what this really means?
Yes, I can. And I so love the intention for this event, this summit that you're running, Lisa. It's so amazing. I was so happy to be involved. And like one of the certifications that you've just mentioned has a lot to do with this, to be quite honest, because staying in attunement with ourselves while being of service to others or to everyone else, whether, it's actually relevant whether that's your mother and that's to your family, or whether you are contributing something to the world, through some kind of service, it's actually a similar thing. And we, for generations collectively, have definitely not had this shown to us. We have not had this demonstrated to us, have we?
Oh,
No.
my goodness, no. As a daughter of a mother of 5 who had to martyr herself, I am so with you on that. We don't have many role models, do we?
Yes, yes. My mother had 5 children as well. I understand.
Oh my goodness, yes. What
Yeah.
did we see our poor mothers go through that generation? Maybe that's why we're doing this work so passionately.
Yeah, there's a lot, isn't there? There's so much that we're learning. There's so much that we're remembering from our soul wisdom, and like now here today, so much that we need to educate ourselves on, so that we don't deplete our internal resources in the process of attempting to, help other people, because it is completely unsustainable. And I think a lot of us have learned that the hard way through doing our best, but still realizing, right, that because of all of this, just generational ways of being that get passed down to us, and the lack of education that has been there until much more recently, we've all just been doing the best we can. So
I've been there, I've written a book on it.
Yes, and so somatic attunement as well is so important, that I realized on my path. So, you know, having gone quite deep into somatic psychotherapy, whoa, you know, just there are so many places that we can actually create repair, like real repair to the disconnect that we did experience, and so that we can then nourish ourselves in a very real way and learn how to operate in the world from that place, which is actually pretty exciting.
That's phenomenally exciting, considering it's new work, and a lot of women are quite frightened of embracing that, you know, that deep, intimate relationship with their bodies. I think there's still a
Yeah.
lot of stigma around that, and you know, there's still fear and resistance. What do you think is bringing that fear and resistance to a lot of women to explore their sexuality, their sensuality?
Well, it's pretty multi-layered of why that's there, you know, and um, you know, there's family patterning, there's collective fears, there's that religious energy, and there's so many ways that I could answer that question. But for a lot of the women that I have worked with, what holds them back is actually, if I speak truthfully to this, is a sense inside of them that knows that their life is going to change when they realize what they really do have access to inside of them. So that's truthfully one of the things that I witness and have seen many, many times over the years in women. Like, even if they don't fully know what might be possible, it's like we immediately just sense it. You know, we instinctively just get this sense of, oh, wow, okay, if I really let myself feel what I'm made of, if I really let myself feel the power that is inside of me, I might actually need to take full responsibility for my life. And
Wow.
yeah, and some changes might need to be made. But all of those changes that I have also witnessed women make are totally for the better. But change can be vulnerable at first, you know.
I wanted to speak about that too. This deep sense, that there's a series of initiations we need to go through, where, you know, we're slowly but surely releasing the grip of the ego and the grip of judgment and those things upon us. And I wondered what you think about this. That is it necessary really for us to go through so much pain in order to grow? You know, what is your take on that?
Is it necessary to go through the pain? Look, I think it's a different process. You know, I mean, it's a similar process for everyone, but it's a different actual journey for everyone. You know, I tend to believe that we have our accumulated soul memory and we have our actual life experience, and they kind of collide and create the things that we do need to actually face. And sometimes those things can appear painful, but it's kind of like, you know, being forged in the fires of transformation, and just being willing to face ourselves and, you know, our soul within that. And totally, it doesn't need to be as painful as we make it a lot of the time, but there really is some challenging places, and I don't think there's any denying of that, right?
Do you think it's easier if women are prepared to go through the you know, the discomfort that comes from making those changes? If, because I guess there's a lot of talk around about, you know, women, once they're on their soul path, the red carpet gets rolled out and they're able to gracefully move through life in flow and ease. If only. And if we expect to go through the initiation process, maybe us willingly submitting to the discomfort might be a way of us navigating this path. And I guess you know, I'm really keen to explore that with you, especially in light of this idea of us continuing to sustain our vision. Because one thing about you, Devashi, that I really admire as a spiritual teacher and leader is that you've kept going right through to the end realization of your service and your vision. For each of your certification processes, you've had to step through that final part of the fire, which was getting it out there to the people that need it. Tell us about what keeps you going. How do you keep walking through those series of initiations?
I have been through quite a few initiations, and I don't feel like it's over either. And so, like, I mean, that's my internal sense of the soul journey for me. Like, for sure, it can get a lot easier, and it has in a lot of ways. Not in every way, but look, I mean, it's why I'm here, you know, and I'm super clear about that. And I'm not really that distracted by other things. I get that I'm here for a purpose that is beyond my surface level personality likes and dislikes, you know, and I'm not here just to like play in the world in a you know, surface way. Yeah, and I accept that, and I have accepted that for a long time. So I think that gives me a lot of support and energy. And when you talked about the red carpet, it just reminded me how there truly are periods of time that do feel like that, though, and I love it. And to me, they are an amazing sign of our real alignment that's going on and like unfolding before us. And when it stops feeling like that, you know, that in itself is a sign to, oh, so what is required now? You know, and always being willing to ask that question, what's required now to really be in alignment, and what do I need to feel? What do I need to, be willing to face now? And just, there's this real surrender in that. There's an intense surrender in that. And there's also a huge amount of support and upliftment that comes through allowing that willingness. And I mean, there's so much grace that supports us when we are really true to our soul path. And to me, that kind of is the red carpet moments.
How amazing to think that. So what I heard just then was such through inner resource making, through the active questioning process, what is required of me next, you know, instead of, oh, why me? You know, that there's a very distinct difference in this attitude towards the responsibility of hearing the call, the heroine's calling on this path, and some women will be hearing that call over and over. In my experience of coaching, they'll keep refusing it. They'll keep saying, no, it's too big. The responsibility is too big for me. And how enviable that you feel so clear on your path. And how do you think that came about for you? Was, you know, that moment of clarity when you just knew that you were here for this amazing work you're doing? Did that happen overnight? Did it happen as a young?
I really hope I'm not painting any unrealistic pictures at all. Seriously, I've really faced some shit in my life, and you know, big time. And I feel like when it gets lighter and easier and there's more grace, the more willing I am to really be a conduit and really be a channel, and to be able to say yes, and to not fixate too much on you know, this is where I'm at and I've arrived, and do you know what I mean? Like, being allowing of the continual evolution is huge. And there's a lot of lightness that I experience every time I have this wonderment of, okay, what's happening now? You know?
It's genuine curiosity, isn't it, and staying open as opposed to forming a judgment that might stop you in your tracks. That's a very fine skill, a very fine attunement to have, this ability to stay open. Because what fascinates me about that too is that in your work could be considered controversial, especially in the face of our mainstream, right? Because your work is outside the mainstream. So how do you deal with that sense of pushback from the conservative mindset that does want to keep things the same, that doesn't want to be on the edge of the change?
Well, actually, I've experienced that not just from like mainstream culture, but also from the fringe community, because I tend to, you know, be part of opening things up before they get well known, even in the fringe. And so I felt pushback from both. And how do I deal with that? I mean, I'm guided and led by something that isn't coming from, you know, the people around me necessarily. Like, so I'm not reliant on those perceptions or belief systems. Do you know what I mean? Like that, it has no capacity to stop me. But when it comes to maybe the more mainstream person, like I truly believe that we are all spirit, even if people don't believe that about themselves. Like love is this reality. Do you know what I mean? And whether someone's conscious of it or not is neither here nor there. So
that's beautiful. No, that's beautiful, because what it's really saying is that we are all being so loved by benevolence that guides us on our path. Benevolence is not trying to trip us up and say, oh, you know, go walk into that fire and get burnt. It is really gently and kindly speaking to us always and telling us to keep going. And your capacity to untether yourself from those outside forces is such a good example, Devashi, because what I really heard for you then is that you've managed to achieve a level of freedom that most people dream of having, where they are only referring to that inside voice and not anything outside of themselves. So I'm really blown away and inspired by that. It's a constant practice.
I've got to tell you, Lisa, that what you're highlighting right now, I actually feel like that is a gift of transformation, because I didn't have a strong sense of belonging in my family. I've come from really quite a disconnected family, and it still is. Yeah. And, you know, beautiful people on their own journeys that are very challenged in certain ways, very under-resourced, particularly on an emotional level. And because I didn't have that tethering to the people around me, that's like a really intense wounding that I've journeyed through. But it's also, I guess, something I have been able to optimize at the same time, you know, and use to my advantage, right? Because if the spirit world, if my high guidance is something I have had to rely on because there wasn't anything else, do you know what I mean? Like that now is supportive, right?
I love that, how I see this a lot in women who are realizing their soul purpose, that their greatest challenge becomes the medicine that they learn to bring to the world. And they see their greatest challenge as an excuse or a reason to not do the work, but all the tools that come from that challenge have formed this body of work that is just so potent. And I love that it's come from your genuine personal experience, because that's really what this summit is about too, is learning how to be an authentic extension of ourselves, through our business and through our service provision, and is it possible to do that and to actually create an abundant business and life that we absolutely, you know, love? Because I guess there's a question mark for a lot of my clients. At some point they say, is this really possible for me to be myself truly and do what I love?
Oh my gosh, my heart just is, I feel that in my heart when I hear that and when I sense women feeling this, because I have something that's coming through that I really just have to say, and this has been innate to me through my life, and I think this is like a soul gift that I didn't actually have to work very hard for at all, because I've always known that I did not come here to this planet to be a slave. Right? So this like healthy defiance in me who's been like all my life, like, fuck that. I did not come here to conform to some bullshit illusionary paradigm. I am driven and guided by some other level of consciousness, and I'm here to bring that. And I've never been afraid to trust that and to rely on that. I've hardly ever been employed in my life, ever. I think the longest I've ever been employed is like 4 months.
Wow.
Because
I'm getting goosebumps because that's so powerful, that because I think most women tuning in will be unemployable. They just cannot do 9 to 5. It is just going to rattle them and drive them mentally ill if they do try to conform to that very rigid paradigm. So tell us more about that, because you do have a regal nature. Yeah, you're very graceful, and that queen-like energy is strong in you. So tell us more about that archetype and what you.
Maybe my astrology helps a little bit. I'm not sure with the Leo moon, but like I actually feel like I got a bit attacked for this frequency that you're recognizing when I was younger, including in my family. But it's not like I believe this is the same for all of us. I don't believe that I'm different to anyone. I don't know how. I don't know how that I've known since I was very little that that is the truth, you know, and I'm just not willing to bend. I'm not willing to conform to some other illusionary paradigm, because I can see through it, because I can feel that, you know, even when I was little, those adults, you know, going on with that paradigm, they're not authentic. They're not in alignment. Do you know what I mean? So it's had no reality for me.
Awesome.
And when I experience source connection, that is royalty. That is royalty to me. And we all are that, you know? And so I feel like in all the, you know, different ways I have services, it's all about just providing space for women to remember this about themselves. And I think that's what we're all doing in our waking up to who we are. You know, it is this divine frequency that we all want to be close to, right?
Yeah, that's really fascinating too, because I'm also really fascinated by this idea of sovereignty, where as women we're working towards ways of being more and more self-determined and understanding that we create, you know, so much more of our reality than we've ever been taught or conditioned to believe. And what that means, because it does take a great responsibility. And yeah, I'm very fascinated by this idea that sovereignty is possible for every single woman. So what would you suggest to a woman who's struggling right now and she's really feeling like she's at the mercy of outside forces or circumstances and wants to place herself back on the red carpet or back in the driver's seat? What sort of advice would you have for that woman right now?
Yes, so what I would say is not only is sovereignty possible, it is actually the only, you know, real reality inside, and it already exists. You know, it's so natural and so innate that it already exists. And all we need to do is to come into contact with that which is already alive inside of us. And I have found that to be accessible through really inhabiting our feminine bodies and to experience this incredible intelligence of life, of nature that runs through us, and especially our earth connection as well. This has been massive for me in my life as well, you know, like the intelligence of nature in my own body, but also of the earth and source connection. Like, that is sovereignty, do you know what I mean? And when we are willing to stay true to ourselves and go through whatever we need to go through, we're willing to go through whatever it takes, you know, to actually let what we know to be true inside to be our external reality. It's not necessarily easy. So for a woman right now listening who feels kind of bound by her circumstances, you know, this thing of truly being responsible for our lives, it's fucking hard in a lot of moments, but we have to face that. Yeah. You know, and I'm not talking about being over responsible in the way that a lot of us are conditioned to do that. I just mean being willing to get that consequences that we experience really are a result of the energy that we're holding. You know, our whole energy field is impacting our environment, you know, and we're responsible for our own energy fields. And so contacting our deeper feminine energy totally opens all of that up. And there's so many aspects to that, as you know, like consciously menstruating and consciously making love, and all the ways that we have access to our powerful inner resources, you know, and just showing up for ourselves as we're experiencing these things. It just obliterates the illusions. It really does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that idea of showing up with full and complete presence and not hiding out or hiding from ourselves is certainly more accessible when we start to dissolve that interface between separation of spirit and body. Yeah, that's my understanding, is the more we inhabit our bodies, the more present we become to all of life. And so those embodiment practices that you teach, so, you know, so beautifully in your trainings and teachings, are really like a key to us accessing that power. And so that's really that's really beautiful that women, every single woman on the planet, no matter what her circumstances, has access to that. So there is no disadvantage. We are all on a level playing field. We did not need to be born understanding this queen-like energy. We can activate that at any time, right?
Yes. So on an internal reality, what you said then is 100% true. But I have to just acknowledge as well that, of course, we know that there are some women in the world who are seriously disadvantaged by their external circumstances, but the inner reality does remain the same. Yeah.
And so when we talk about this concept of abundance and creating an abundant life, or a rich life and a soulful life, and hearing the call, if there's a woman right now struggling with lack, you know, and she's sort of in that turning point, wondering if she should give up, what would you suggest to her as a really good place to start to turn things around?
I think there's such specific things I would say if I were tuning into one particular person and feeling them, but in a general sense, I'll link it to what I said before, that we are here to bring and to gift and contribute, you know, more love, more beauty to this planet, and each of us has a unique way of doing that. And when we trust what that is, you're going to be supported. And something that's been becoming extremely clear for me is that, and this has really blown my mind, and it kind of sounds simple when I say it out loud, but it's been quite revelationary to my psychology, you know, which is wealth is source. Wow. Right? So it's all about alignment. Wow. And when we're afraid and when we're in scarcity, we are literally just, you know, tapping more into our external environment and being at response to that instead of to our divine alignment. If we're at response to that, do you know what I mean? Like, one of the things that I talk about with women working with me is, like, we need to shift our receptivity. Yes. We need to reorientate our receptivity from being at reaction to what's happening around us to being at response to our own power that is always available to us.
Wow, that's so powerful. That's pretty much saying, you know, rather than being in that reaction, you're accessing your co-creative power, and really what that means is working in complete union with benevolence itself, isn't it? I mean, with that on your side, how could you fail? how could you fail? Tell me something as a parting, you know, I guess we're going to start wrapping things up now. So I could talk to you for hours.
I know, it's so quick.
But I would love to know what you've got in the wings for 2018 and how our listeners can find your beautiful work. Tell us more about that.
Okay. Well, I love what we've been talking about today, because it actually leads to some clarity that came to me quite recently. And I do feel like all of my work is essentially about claiming your throne as a woman, and in all that that's going to mean on all levels, right? So I feel like essentially that's everything what I'm sharing is about that. And so this year, what you can see is Well, I have the Feminine Yoga Teacher Training Program. It's basically booked out. It's almost about to fill. I have a beautiful embodiment retreat in Greece, in the Greek islands, later in the year in November.
Wow.
And yes, and I have a online international new program that will be coming out, and it's very much about accessing what I have come to see as the true meaning of the divine feminine, and it's about this royalty current, this divine current that we've been talking about today, and actually letting it reorientate us in our world. And being willing to go through what that means, and having personal support to really get it and really anchor it for yourself.
Wow, that's phenomenal. And where can we find out more about you, about that work?
Yes. So I actually have a brand new website that's about to happen. It's taken me so many years to pull this together for some reason. Like, I've had different sites for different services, but now the one under my name is going to house all of them. So that's devashishakti.com.
Yeah, beautiful. And I'll be writing that into the notes. And it's just been such an honor and a privilege to be able to, you know, really tap into some of your incredible wisdom. And you've been so generous sharing this journey, because I know it's not easy for a lot of women out there, and to see someone setting the example of being really true to their heart's calling and their dharma is incredibly inspiring. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, beautiful Lisa. And I really hope someone's interviewing you, because you're such a wise, powerful woman yourself with so much experience.
Namaste.
Bye. Bye.